theme of the actual video is not funny or happy, you know. Top 10 people who CIA fears the most. And this is like part 2. I haven't even checked part 1, but let's check out part 2, and if we like it, then we can check out part 1. So let's go.
We are back with a part 2 that is full of evil people who like to do evil things. I know on part 1 you guys had some thoughts and feelings about the people who were on the list, and I'm just gonna tell you straight up. I'm not talking about hackers and potential threats to any country's national security. You know what I mean? Just for everyone's safety, that seems like a bad idea. So today we are talking serial killers and those kinds of monsters as we dive into part 2 of the top 10 people who the CIA fears the most. Starting off this list today in our number 10 spot, we have Harold Shipman. Coined with the terrifying nickname Dr. Death, Harold—
He looks like that actor! That actor! The one in Star Wars, Harrison Ford. He looks like Harrison Ford. His name is even like with an H.
Harold Shipman is thought to be responsible for taking the lives of 218 of his patients from 1972 to 1998. Because of his obvious position as a physician, he was able to fly under the radar for so long despite committing so many of these atrocious crimes. This is, in the end, what led to his downfall, however. Because so many of his patients were passing away, people started to get suspicious, and this was only exacerbated by the fact that he claimed many of his patients, who were normally elderly women, had passed away in their sleep, but when people started to notice that many of them had actually passed away during the day, people began to get concerned about what sinister secrets may be hiding in the dark. This all coupled with the fact that Harold had asked for an unusually large number of cremation certificates, which ended up catching the attention of a local undertaker, was enough to bring the authorities, who began to investigate. For a while it was believed that Harold should be cleared of all suspicion, until the death of an 81-year-old under mysterious circumstances. Her family demanded an investigation because they noticed that her insurance beneficiary had been changed to Harold, which obviously was a major red flag. I mean, I love my doctor, but I'm not about to leave them my life's savings, you know? Another thing that really tipped people off is that this woman had passed away shortly after a home visit from Harold, despite her being fine before his arrival. They ended up exhuming the body and found that she had actually passed away from a morphine overdose, and the timing of that overlapped with the time that Harold had been in the home. After further investigation, it was realized that Harold also encouraged all of the families of those who had passed away to cremate the bodies, which is exactly why he needed all of those certificates, as well as the fact that he jumped through hoops to assure them that the cause of death he wrote down was the true and real cause. Imagine, you're like, I would assume so. Thankfully, he wasn't cleared of suspicions and was caught for his terrible crimes. He was tried and convicted of 15 counts of his crimes, but after his conviction, an audit estimated his number of victims to be around 236. In our number 9 spot today, we have Richard Ramirez. Richard, who is also known as the Night Stalker, was a serial—
This one looks like the Flash! The new one that is in jail. Coincidence? I don't think so.
A killer who terrorized the streets of Los Angeles in the 1980s.
But he is loud?
He was known for his MO of invading homes, which left him initially being dubbed as the walk-in killer, but he had another signature that was concerning to many people, especially during the height of the Satanic Panic. Richard was known for leaving behind different satanic messages at the scene of his crimes. Because of his satanic signature, after he left his first pentagram at the scene of a crime, authorities became worried that he was a Charles Manson copycat, but instead he was just his very own kind of monster. It is said that he would leave more pentagrams behind.
I'm not the only one, right? Like, if you go to Google and type Flash and you go to images, 2022, and what's his name? This guy, Ezra Miller. So this is Ezra Miller. And this is the guy. I mean,
also telling his victims to swear to
Not just
Satan
me.
instead of God. During his court appearances, he would hold up a pentagram, and after pleading not guilty, he said, quote, "Hail Satan."
Yeah.
In our number 8 spot today, we have H.H. Holmes. H.H. is often referred to as America's first serial killer, which just seems like a title no one should ever want to hold.
Okay,
While
who
he
does this guy
confessed
look
to
like, guys?
27 of his crimes, there are some who believe the actual number might be closer to 200, which is absolutely insane.
man.
You might be
Even
wondering
back then,
how he was
200?
able to accomplish this
lot.
horrifying amount of crimes, and that is due to his building of a hotel in Chicago. This hotel was designed to be like a maze full of windowless rooms, which were intended to make escaping almost impossible, which honestly is just a terrifying.
Whoa. Rooms without windows so you cannot escape? And that is a hotel? Oh my god.
Thought. H.H. was the only person
Bro,
who knew
this
the
is a great idea for a video game.
entire layout of the hotel, which he purposefully ensured by hiring and firing multiple different builders throughout the construction of the hotel. The hotel consisted of things like secret passages and trapdoors, soundproof rooms, doors that locked from the outside with gas jets on the inside. There was also a safe big enough for a human to be put inside of, which unfortunately he did. And there was also a very large chute which he used to get bodies from the upper floors to the basement, where there were 2 huge furnaces, a kiln, as well as a ton of acid. Not only would he get close to women to take control of their finances and then kill them, but he would also require his employees to take out life insurance policies that named him as the beneficiary. Again, a big red flag. Some of the bodies he even ended up selling to medical schools. Eventually he was found out, caught, and sentenced to death. It isn't known exactly how many victims he had, but it's thought to be somewhere over 200. In our number 7 spot today, we have Luis Garavito. Luis gained a nickname from the media of, quote, the Beast, and I think that's a great indication of the nature of his atrocious crimes.
Other background
He is said to be
picture?
one of the worst serial killers in the entire world, and it is believed that his victim count is up in the 300s range. He confessed to 147 crimes, and he was found guilty on 139 of those counts, which put his
How
sentence
can
at
you
1,000.
kill 300 people without getting caught? Oh my god.
853 years, but here's the thing. This trial took place in Colombia, where he lives, and there is a law which puts the maximum sentence to 30 years. He was sentenced in 1999, meaning there's only a few years of his sentence left, and there's a chance he could get out early for good behavior. According to Luis himself, he committed these
Who killed 300 people is leaving the jail? Are you crazy? Are you an idiot? What the fuck? On good behavior, leaving early.
crimes because he had made a deal with the devil, and he explained that satanic ritual was involved in all of his crimes. In our number 6 spot today, we have John Wayne Gacy. With a nickname like Killer Clown, it is abundantly clear why everyone would want to stay away from this actual monster. He got his start in this horrifying nickname by being a clown for children's birthday parties, charitable events, and that sort of thing. According to Gacy himself, all of his crimes were committed inside of his ranch house, where he would lure his victims into. He would then trick them into wearing handcuffs under the pretense that he was going to show off some sort of magic trick, and from here, the horror unfortunately ensued. It is thought that he took the lives of somewhere around 33 young men, most of which he buried in the crawl space of his home. On the evening of December 11th, 1978, Gacy took the life of his last victim, Robert Peist. Gacy lured the young man in when he went into the pharmacy that he worked at, and while talking with the store owner, loudly declared so that Robert could hear that he often hired teenagers for his firm at a starting rate of $5 per hour, which was double what Robert was getting at the pharmacy. In hopes of getting a new good job, Robert ended up inquiring further after his shift at the pharmacy was over. When Robert's mother filed a missing persons report, the pharmacy owner was able to explain that Gacy was likely the person he went to speak to about the job, and when the police looked into Gacy's background, all the pieces were there just waiting to be put together. Subsequent investigation, questioning, and searches led police to gather all of the evidence they needed to arrest and charge him, and his conviction for 33 killings was, at the time, the most by one individual in the United States legal history. He was sentenced to death.
He was sentenced to death, and on his death chair, like the last sentence, he said, I think it was F you all, or something
March
like
13th,
that.
1980, and on May 10th, 1994, he was executed by lethal injection. And I'm not gonna lie, I just think that's something we can all be grateful for. In our number 5 spot today, we have Albert Fish. Albert is one of the oldest people on this list, but that does not mean his crimes were any less horrific than
I don't
anyone else's.
understand. Like, for me, old people always seem weak and nice and sweet. It just my brain comprehends babies and old people the same. But it's not, old people can be mean, I don't know why that's how I think about old people. I feel like they're helpless, but that sometimes can be an act.
Dubbed the Brooklyn Vampire
Look
or
at
the
him,
Moon
like,
Maniac or even
how
the
can he kill
Boogeyman
anyone?
himself, it is clear
push
that
him.
Albert was a terrible human who did terrible things.
Oh
In
my
the early
God.
1900s, Albert was arrested, tried, and convicted for killing and eating 3 people, but the horror was not over here. No, Albert began to
Eating?
claim that although people knew about the
Cannibalism?
3, the number was closer to 100, and he even claimed that he had some in every state. That's disgusting. To make matters even worse, as if it wasn't already terrible enough, this deranged lunatic also sent a letter to the mother of one of his victims. He detailed everything about how he lured her and the rest of the horrific things that occurred afterwards, like how he proceeded to eat her over the course of 9 days. Yeah, this is another person that I am not sad at all that they don't exist anymore. That's perfectly fine by me. In our number 4 spot today, we have Sam Little. Sam Little is well known for being one of the worst serial killers ever. He has confessed to taking the lives of more than 90 people, and while authorities have only been able to definitively
One though,
connect
now
him
I
to
don't know, like
30,
she's talking about it, but she's showing a picture of 2 people, and now probably on the right guy because of what he's wearing.
They say they have no reason to doubt the validity of
That's
any
the
of his
lawyer
other
on the left.
confessions. Sam was able to continue on his horrible path for so many years because of the fact
Sam
that he
doesn't
committed these
look like a
crimes
bad
in different
guy,
states and
like,
different
that's the
counties,
thing.
which made it more difficult to connect his crimes to one another.
It's
In an
like-
interview with an investigator named Sergeant LeBlanc, as they discussed religious beliefs, they spoke
Here
about the
maybe a
nature
bit,
of
yeah.
sin. Sam stated he had no fear of God and said that God made him this way, so why should he ask for forgiveness? He said that God knew everything he did. He also allegedly told a few select people that he believed he was the devil. In our
That's
number
how
3
it
spot today, we
works.
have the alphabet. There are a lot of scary people on
That's
this
how
list.
it works, then why would world wars exist? Why would corrupt people exist? Why would any kind of evil exist? Bruh, that is not... He doesn't know what religion is.
Today,
I
but
won't
some of the
believe it.
scariest out there are the ones we know have committed horrific crimes but have yet to be identified. Yes, we are talking cold cases, unsolved crimes right now, and we are talking one of the worst. The Alphabet Killings are a series of unsolved
Alphabet?
crimes named because of how each victim had their first initial match their last. So like their first name and their last
Oh my
name started
god,
with the
if
same
you
letter.
have a
They
matching
know these
first name
crimes
and a
are
last
linked, or
name
at least they
letters,
have reason to
run.
suspect they are because of the similar MO that includes how the life was taken and where the remains were placed afterwards.
What a
They
weird
were all
thing.
taken in a similar area around the same time. There are theories and suspects as to who could have committed these horrific crimes, but as of right now,
They don't
no one
know.
knows for sure.
No
These crimes
one
were committed
knows. No one knows who is the killer. Legit, guys, if you have like your first initial and last initial the same, run.
between
Don't
1971
tell
and
anyone.
1973 in Rochester, New York, and because of the timing, it's possible that whoever committed these crimes could still be alive, or perhaps they're not. Authorities, despite having an immensely difficult job placed in front of them, are still committed and trying to solve this case to this day. In our number 2 spot today, we have
in
Pedro
America,
Lopez.
right?
Pedro Lopez had a very difficult
Pedro.
life growing up, and unfortunately, this led to him living a life committing a plethora of horrifying crimes throughout South America during the 1970s. By the time the 1980s rolled around, as he made a mistake during one of his awful crimes, this led to his arrest. Once in police custody, he spilled everything on basically his entire life and confessed to an insane amount of crimes. Like, we're talking confessing to 240 killings on top of the 110 they already suspected him of. Police were a little skeptical of just how many crimes he said he committed, but Pedro was
Yeah,
able
I
to
have a feeling that sometimes these guys exaggerate just to be looking like they're more scary or more badass. Once they have like committed 100 or whatever, they can say 300, 400. Who knows? Who will ever know?
lead them to a
Attention
mass
seeking.
grave where he recovered a total of 53 people's remains. Pedro, of course, went to jail, but get this. He was somehow released in 1994, which is absolutely insane. He was then sent to some sort of mental institution for 3 years, but then he was also released from there for, quote, good behavior. Okay, so aside
What is good behavior if you kill 300 people?
from the crimes he committed and the fact that they let him go, are you ready for the worst part? Well, in 2002, he was suspected of being the perpetrator of a new crime, but no one has been able to find him.
Oh, really? Oh, no shit. Oh, what did you think? A person who kills 300 people after 5 years in prison on good behavior is not gonna kill anymore? Sure.
Since 1998. Yeah, Pedro just disappeared. Great. In our number one spot today, we have Jeffrey Dahmer.
No one knows where he
This
is.
is one man who was
yeah,
exceptionally
Jeffrey
terrifying
Dahmer. We
because
all
of
know
his actions,
Jeffrey.
But he was also very, very smart, which adds an extra layer of terror to this one. Dahmer, who became known as the Milwaukee Monster, is one of the most prolific serial killers ever, and considering everyone we've talked about today, we know that's not an easy title to get. He became fixated with animals at a young age, and if you're interested in true crime and criminology, you know what happens next and how bad of a sign it is. Dahmer dropped out of business school due to alcohol abuse after just 3 months and enlisted in the U.S. Army to train as a medical specialist, but that didn't last long either, as he was discharged after he attacked two fellow soldiers. After this, Dahmer fell hard into alcoholism, and this is when his killing spree started. Just to be clear, those two things are not related. I know you know that, but I just don't want anyone to think otherwise. Between 1971 and 1991, Dahmer went on to take the lives of 17 people, and some of the things that came after included the permanent preservation of the body parts, typically all or part of the skeleton. So yeah, things were very, very dark. One of his victims was able to escape and booked it to the police, which is of course what led to Dahmer being caught for his atrocious crimes. When they got there, the chief medical examiner remarked that it was more like dismantling someone's museum than an actual crime scene. That is just how bad it was. In the end, Dahmer was tried and convicted and sentenced to 15 life imprisonments, and in February of 1992 he received an additional life sentence for a crime he hadn't yet been tried for that occurred in Ohio. In a very interesting turn of events, Dahmer was killed behind bars by another inmate in 1994. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. I've been your host.
This is the thing. I think everybody knows a lot about Dahmer this year because of the 2 Netflix shows. First, the series adaptation, and the second one is the actual documentary behind the Jeffrey Dahmer story. And I feel like we all know what happened and how everything happened at this point. And you can't but not feel sorry for this guy and the way he got raised and what went wrong is still a mystery, but it's on a psychological level, because you kind of have a feeling that all of this could have been in a way evaded if they knew how to treat him at a young age psychologically and deal with him better. The fact that his parents were not treating well and didn't take it seriously. He was a lonely guy. He didn't talk to anyone. He grew into all of the, like, they left him alone in his house as a teenager, like even younger. He would be all alone, and that's why he would kill all these people, because he never wanted anyone to leave anymore. So you kind of cannot but connect these two together: his family leaving him and he not wanting people to leave him, his victims, and that's why he would kill them. He was trying to make them into zombies without really hurting them. He was always trying to kill them without them having any pain, and that's why he would give them these kind of drugs that they don't feel anything, you know, and he was trying to make them into zombies so they will always stay with him. So it kind of is really sad, but you, like, at the same time, what a crazy guy. Like, he was eating these people because he wanted to become one with them, and he was making a temple of skeletons and skulls, and like, that is really crazy, you know. But yeah, at that point it was already too late, but at younger age you kind of do understand, you know, the trouble he went through.
Today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Yeah, and like, he knew it at the end. He didn't even try to hide it. He wasn't like evil, you know. He was just a sad case. That's the thing. It's so sad that it went that way, and what can you do? Like, he deserves death, yeah, of course, but he never really lived. Okay. That's